and welcome to Green Queens, the perfect podcast for imperfect environmentalists. 3 things have happened in the last few days. The Brits happened, number 1. 2, the Brits happened in Manchester. And number 3, Imogen is not here, so we have had to super sub her in and out. And I think get the first ever person back onto the pod for the second time. Mary Mandefield, welcome.
Oh my word, returning guest. Thank you so much for having me. I love you gals and I love what you do. So always a pleasure.
Well, we were like, okay, we want to talk about the Brits. We're not cool enough or culturally informed enough to talk about the Brits in the entertainment space. But every time we turn on the BBC News channel, Mary Mandefield's face is there talking about the Brits. So we're going to get you on the
Pop culture, I love entertainment. And yeah, the Brits is like my Christmas.
Oh, good. Well, like, happy Christmas. And it's like Boxing Day for you, kind of, isn't it? Big news, though, in the world of the Brits, in that it moved all the way up to Manchester. Can you talk to us a little bit about like what was behind that move?
Yeah, so the Brits have been going for almost 50 years, and this is the first time that they've taken the show away from London. So it's normally at the O2, and this time they went to the Co-op Live Arena in Manchester, which is brand new, shiny, gorgeous, huge, incredible, aesthetically pleasing, lovely arena. I don't know if it came as a massive surprise to the industry. I think there's been this conversation going for a while about diversifying the music scene within the UK and trying to not make everything so London-centric, which obviously I'm so behind. They're not the first big award ceremony to take it out of London, like the Mobos, which is like a music of Black origin award show that kind of travels around and goes to different places. And that's actually happening at the Co-op Live this year. I think it's end of March. So they'll have another big show there. The MTV European Music Awards that travels around and goes to different cities each year. And they've been in Manchester in the past. So I think it's almost like, not that the Brits had to do it to keep up and be cool, but it's kind of signaling that there are these big opportunities, and you do look a little bit old-fashioned if every single year you're saying this is the biggest night in British music. And actually the Brits is huge on a global scale as well, and you're constantly saying like it has to be in London. It's like, no, there's fans, artists, press, and all these other creatives who are based around the UK. And honestly, I think seeing it on screen, the Co-op Live just looked amazing. Like, I'm so glad they did it. They've signed up to 2 years minimum, so it will be there again next year. And I think that's good, just to get in the groove of things, from a logistics standpoint. And I think for the public as well, to kind of know that, yeah, it wasn't like a one-off.
It did look cool, didn't it, on the TV? Like, it worked really well. And I think that could be a really good kind of, maybe like planting a seed for future events that are televised as to how good it can look if you just think outside the box a little bit. And just a little quick rundown then on the Co-op Live for anybody that doesn't know. So it is, like you say, kind of brand shiny new. It has a football pitch and a half of solar panels. That's pretty impressive, isn't it? Toilets that flush with rainwater. So Olivia Dean will have been flushing that toilet, no doubt, throughout the night. What else? Locally sourced food, zero waste direct to landfill, intelligent building controls to increase biodiversity, and sustainable transport connections. And one of the things that the Brits kind of website on their sustainability page references a lot is the transport links and what it was offering. Do you know a little bit about that and whether people were kind of utilising the public transport links?
I have worked on a show at the Co-op Live, and I've been to a show as a fan, and I will just say it does just feel kind of efficient, and everything is very easy to get there. Definitely different to the O2 in London, which is notoriously really quite tricky. And if you miss the last train, you're stranded there. It feels like with the Co-op Live, you can kind of get in and get out, and it's not too much fuss. So I don't know how fans kind of use that during the ceremony, but it's definitely feels a lot easier than a lot of other venues I've been to.
Yeah, and I think if you had a ticket to the Brits, you got free tram travel on the night,
Yeah.
which makes sense, doesn't it? Like, people are there spending money, more than likely staying in local hotels,
Mm.
going to local coffee shops and things like that. Like, the economy is there in the city anyway. What a great incentive to just also encourage people to hop on the tram. It's running anyway. We may as well fill it and
Yeah.
consider those sustainable travel options as opposed to a taxi or whatever. And like you say, actually, the O2 in London, notorious for getting stranded, being stuck in traffic for hours. You hear of people talking about
Mm.
going to these big award ceremonies in London and that being, the way to kind of ruin the end of the night.
Yeah.
So it's amazing that they're putting on these options and that is such a big part of, an iconic night in British music as well. Like, who'd have thought we'd be talking about trams and sustainable travel?
I
But
would
I think
always choose to grab like, yeah, jump on the tram, and then you can also enjoy your night, like, if you wanna have a drink, you can, and yeah, it just makes it easier.
so much easier. We had a little chat before we start recording as well, and I was like, "We need to stop talking about this because this is good content for
Mhm.
the podcast." But I mean, the outfits. Talk to me about
Yeah.
what people were wearing, what the general vibe was. Olivia Dean looked sensational. I
Yeah.
think 4 outfit changes.
I think it was Olivia Dean's night, and we've seen this pattern the past few years, and it has been amazing that it's been like female artists, but it's been like 2023, Ray was like the big winner of the night, and then 2024, Charlie XCX was the big winner of the night, or Jade's the big winner of the night, and Olivia Dean had that moment where she won 4 awards, including like big ones like Artist of the Year and Album of the Year. But yeah, she was on the red carpet in this like yellow summery dress. I was like, oh, that's cute. But I was like, I didn't think that would be her vibe for her performances. And then she had a performance and she had a new dress. And then she went up on stage to collect an award and she had another dress. And I think, yeah, 4 outfits in the end, which, she is known now, I think, for her style almost as much as for her music. And it's incredible to see how, she works so well with her stylist. I think a lot of time is wearing like British designers. But it was a shame to not see a real nod, I guess, to either re-wearing or vintage or archive pieces. And that, yeah, when I was like doing my research on any of the attendees, I couldn't really see anyone that had spoken out about re-wearing something or, shopping secondhand or maybe renting something. But saying that, there is almost like so much content and conversation from those red carpet moments or after the awards that is sometimes hard to see what kind of cuts through because these artists are being asked about everything. And I think unless you've got someone on the ground who is asking them about these things or maybe encouraging them for next time, it's almost like hard to kind of get through that conversation because there's so many like pop culture moments.
100%. And Imogen, myself, Mary, I think it goes without saying, as a three, we are available for the Brits next year to be on the red
Yes.
carpet, asking people if their outfits are rented, if they
Mm,
are if they are secondhand, if they are reworn from their wardrobe already. And it
mm,
is kind of a shame that that wasn't something that the Brits were encouraging. They kind of put this big sustainability statement out. We're moving to Manchester. They talked about how great the arena was in terms of like renewable energy and it's so much more energy efficient. And they talked about the transport links. And it would have been so nice if they just said, and we really encourage anybody attending to
mm,
celebrate. And we've spoken about this before, haven't we, when it comes to outfits? There's more of a story, I think, if you have rented it or if you have gone to a charity shop or
mm,
if it is vintage, quite often nowadays we're seeing iconic looks be recreated literally with like the gown that was worn however many years ago. Imagine if somebody was wearing something from the first ever Brits or something. It
mm,
is a shame that that wasn't something that was encouraged. And I went to like the normal go-tos. I was like, Vic Hope, she will have hired her dress because she always hires her dress. And
yeah.
she, I don't think, had hired her dress. I was like, guys,
Come
what
on.
is going on? So disappointing. But
It's interesting. Actually, you know what? We are now really deep into awards season, whether that's music. We've had the Grammys and then we've had the BAFTAs, and the next thing will be the Oscars. And I wonder if there's almost that fatigue if you are someone who's going to all these red carpets and they come
mm.
around quickly. It's almost like every weekend there's a big event. And I do wonder if, maybe you're thinking, okay, the Brits is a really big one. I'm going to just buy something nice or and let my stylist do what my stylist needs to do. But yeah, it definitely gets to this time of the year where awards are just one after the other. And I think unless you really are organized, it's I think it's possible, definitely possible, but I wonder if it's kind of top of people's minds, and it seems like it maybe isn't. I
Yeah.
will say, separate to the fashion, but I do kind of praise the fact that the Brits do a lot of work surrounding the awards. So obviously you have the main awards on the night, but they also do something called Brits Week, like in the lead up. So that's with War Child, and they've been doing this since 2009. They'll put a week, or I think sometimes a bit longer than a week, of gigs, either with nominees or past Brit winners or just kind of great British artists. And so this year they had like Fatboy Slim, Miles Smith, Olivia Dean did a show as well. And they do them in different cities across the UK. So it's nice to know that if you're a fan in Newcastle or in Glasgow or in Edinburgh or I hosted one in Bexhill last year, that you're not necessarily having to travel up to the Brits or travel to the main awards. You can still get your kind of fix of live music and feel like you've been part of something. So I really like that they do that, and I like that they've carried it on for so long.
Yeah, and I think, like you say, it is the Brits. Like, it
Mm,
as a Brit to be in this country, regardless of whether the award ceremony is in London or Manchester, it's nice to kind of feel like you're part of it and feel like there
mm,
is part of your city or where you're from that are getting involved or having an event in some way, because otherwise it can still feel quite like inaccessible and a bit like this kind of shiny thing that is unreachable.
mm,
There was that partnership that you mentioned, and they've also kind of supported this Music Declares Emergency, and this campaign that the Music Declares Emergency are running called No Music on a Dead Planet. They've been working with Billie Eilish, I think, on this. It's kind of harnessing the power of music to put the climate emergency at the forefront of culture. It's been around for, I think, around 5 years. It's a relatively small team, but I do think that there was quite a few people from Music Declares Emergency at the Brits as well. So I do feel like things are bubbling away under the surface. It's
yeah,
just that they're maybe not getting amplified, they're not getting talked about. But that's not necessarily, I think, a bad thing, because if it is bubbling away and if these things have been happening for the last couple of years, it's only a matter of time, I think, before the conversation does then start to come to the forefront. Fingers crossed, anyway.
100%. And you kind of, I guess, got to give them room to grow into it. I think there was a fair amount of criticism just on even the fact of the move to Manchester wasn't honoured. Maybe people were expecting the host to be,
Yeah.
Mancunian, or expecting a bit more of a focus. And I do think they've got things they could learn. Like I was mentioning the Mobos earlier, that last year when I'm pretty sure it was in Newcastle, and they did a whole thing on the train, or they put like DJs on the train and made a whole thing of like, if you're getting the train there, it's going to be a bit of a celebration.
Mm,
And I think, there's like those little pockets of just having fun with it, a way to encourage people to take the train rather than
mm,
flying or driving. And it would be great to see artists doing like pop-up shows on the train on the way there. But I think hopefully, knowing that they're going to be in Manchester again, they can start kind of weaving that in, and
mm.
they've got a year to execute it.
Yeah, I think we should all be on the advisory board to the
Yeah,
Brits as too. I mean,
100%.
no doubt, like you say, they're going to be bubbling away with. There's so much chat online. A lot of it centered around the host, like you say,
Mm,
and like there's people that I would say the vast majority of the people that follow me and that I follow are probably northern, just given.
mm,
And there's like even just small business owners around here. There was quite a lot of kind of frustration. I mean, I'm Yorkshire as well, so it's not like we're from Manchester, and there's always that, oh, east of the Pennines, west of the Pennines fight.
mm,
But um, but yeah, there was quite a lot of frustration, actually, I think, from some of the comments made from the host,
mm.
Jack Whitehall, if you have been living under a rock for the last weekend. What were your thoughts on how he did on that
Yeah.
decision?
I think there's definitely like space to have fun with it. And I don't think I'd want to live in a world where, like, a celebrity or comedian hosting an award show can't poke fun at anything. And you watch someone like Ricky Gervais like doing the Oscars, and that his whole thing is almost like taking the mick out of Americans and how ridiculous everything is. But whilst making the person at home feel like they're part of the joke, and like it's okay to kind of punch up a little bit, but it
Mm,
doesn't really work to punch down. And I think
yeah,
Jack Whitehall's in that position where he's very privileged and very, RP, and that maybe it's like you don't really want to sit at home and feel like you're punching down on anyone. So yeah, but you don't want to suck the fun out of everything. Like, it should, at the end of the day, be lighthearted and fun and a celebration.
Mhm.
But yeah, I think it would work so much better if you had a Mancunian comedian or host kind of doing that. But I was like with my friends and I was like, who would we want to see host it? And it is notoriously, I think, a very tricky job. It's live
Mhm.
TV. You've got to be quick. You've got to, but then also there was like moments in the show where I was like, he's definitely having to fill time.
Yeah,
But you're
and that
like,
is hard.
that's hard work, exactly. But they're doing a lot. And I think last year they did a lot with bringing in young presenters to do part of the backstage and the red carpet bits and things like that. So yeah, there's always space to kind of switch things up.
Yeah. When I was, like, trying to investigative journalism, any form of secondhand charity, anything, I didn't
Yeah.
realise this, but what's it called, that crazy camera that spins round on the red carpet and then zooms
Oh,
in?
like the glam bot.
Yes, the glam bot. Okay, I
Yeah,
always see that guy doing the stuff in America who with the really long
yeah,
hair on
yeah.
TikTok. He's amazing. Um,
Cole.
Cole, yeah,
Yeah.
him. He's so cool. So I think that the Brits did one with Charity
Mm,
Shop Sue, who
mm,
literally the only reference to charity shop or secondhand. If you've not heard, is she's like a fictional comedy
mm.
character. Um, and I found that a bit of an odd choice. I'm not gonna lie. Like, I feel like a lot of celebrities were even kind of walking up to her being like, "Who is this woman?" and what, and they couldn't figure out if she was a character or like
Yeah.
that dynamic was a bit strange. Have you seen any of those clips?
I actually haven't seen those clips, but I do find like each year they kind of do choose a kind of novelty
Yeah.
person to do it. And if it's not someone like that, it's like Grime Gran or someone
Yeah,
someone
okay.
like that. And it's kind of like, oh, what's trending at the moment and kind of make it work. But yeah, I think it's like these award shows are constantly trying to stay relevant.
Mhm.
And it actually surprised me. On Friday, I spent the morning with a neighbor. It was one of those things where my friend's friend told me my neighbor wanted to get into the media industry and wanted to do radio. So I was like, oh, come along and you can come and shadow a day at radio. So she's still in school. She's 17, almost 18. And she was so excited for the Brits. And
Really?
she knew so much. Like she really had kind of done a research and the same with other award ceremonies. And I was like, oh, like, do you and your friends watch the Grammys and watch things like that? And they're like, yeah, they're really into it. I think even more so than when I was her
Mm,
age, that they didn't really feel that relevant. But I do think now it's like they are a big part of the cultural conversation when it comes to music and entertainment because we have less live TV. We don't have Top of the Pops or we don't
mm,
have these kind of T4 or things where people can watch like music. So I just think that was quite interesting that that generation are going to sit down and watch it. Um, and I don't know what that kind of says about sustainability, but you know, the award shows, yes, they're there to celebrate artists, but they also need to remain relevant so they can keep going. It's a business at the end of the day.
yeah.
Um, and yeah, I just thought that was quite
That
interesting.
is
I did,
interesting. I
yeah.
also think, like, again, it's not about sustainability. Of course, that's not at the forefront. But in
Mm,
terms of having such an engaged audience an engaged, potentially quite young audience as well,
mm,
like any person that I speak to nowadays that is probably under the age of 25, they actually are so interested in living their life more environmentally consciously. Like they know about food, they know about food waste, they know about where
mm,
things come from, they know about where things are going. Like they know so much more than we did at
mm,
their age. And so actually, I kind of feel like you're speaking to the converted there. Like they get the messaging. They probably would have been quite appreciative of maybe Jack Whitehall as the host, slipping in a few little bits of information. It might have been a talking point for them. And I think
mm,
again, having an audience, a younger audience, where they're watching people who are such big role models for them. Olivia Dean, icon. She is just what a gorgeous artist to have
mm.
finally got the recognition that she deserves. Is there an element of like four dresses being a little bit excessive? And what message does that give?
Yeah, I mean, it's really hard, isn't it? Because you can also then imagine people on the other side kind of saying, well, if you don't make that kind of effort,
Yeah.
which is expected mainly of female artists, then are you wasting an opportunity and not being appreciative or whatever it
Mm.
is? Um, it does. It does still surprise me. I think that kind of even that change from like a red carpet look to then being in the room look, and that
Mhm.
happens a lot at celebrity events. People
Can't be
kind of
bothered.
running around just to kind of change their outfit. And, you know, this wasn't the case at the Brits, but and especially for an artist who's there to perform and get awards. But a lot of people go to celebrity events to have a photo taken in an outfit and then
Mm,
they leave. And
mm,
I learned that really for the first time last year. I went to the BAFTAs and there was lots of people who said, well, I've been sponsored by this brand, so I'm going to be on the red carpet, take the picture because I'm obligated to,
yeah,
tag them, and then I'm going home.
yeah.
They're like, I have no interest of being here. I have no interest of what this is all about. Um, and that just really, really surprised me. And that's almost like outfit for the sake of just
Mm,
showing you I was there, or because I worked with a brand or the brand's paid me to do that. And that doesn't sit right with me at all, because I just
mm,
think, if you are going to buy a new outfit and make all that effort, then at least go and sit
yeah,
and watch and enjoy.
yeah.
So there's lots of things that happen, I think, behind the scenes that we're just not privy to. And also, these artists often have multiple choices, so that maybe on the day, if they change their mind, they can go for something else, or their stylists will really over order things, just to make sure we have something that fits. And I think at the end of the day, it's a pressure on women, and I wouldn't even notice if Harry Styles changed his outfit, really. Maybe that's a bad example because he is quite expressive with his fashion taste. But if Jack Whitehall changed his outfit, I don't think I'd
No,
notice.
he could have been wearing
Um,
5 suits for all we know.
yeah, and I just think, we do kind of focus on the aesthetics of female artists, and it would be great to see, I don't know, maybe someone like Lola Young is that bit of a Gen Z rebellion. She made a comment about, oh, she didn't have her eyelashes on. And that's not to say she doesn't make an effort with her outfits, but we will see her in like cargo pants or a
Yeah,
t-shirt, or, things that look a little bit more lived in and worn in and casual. Um, and whether that's a message to say, like, let my music speak for me. We saw Billie Eilish was quite like that at the beginning of her career, was like, I'm not here to like please you with my body. I just want
mm,
you to listen to the music. Um, but yeah, I'd love to see a kind of typical pop girly, I guess, kind of have a bit of a rebellion and say, I want to focus on being here and being present, because
mm.
it's just a lot of running back and forth. They don't just change their outfit. So often, like, change your hair, change your jewelry, change your makeup, and then go back out there. And it just must be exhausting.
Yeah, I know. It would be really cool to have like, the Brits has changed hugely this year. It's changed location. I imagine, well, logistically there is no greater change. So I can
Mm,
kind of give them the benefit of the doubt that they stuck with Jack Whitehall. It's safe. I can
yeah,
kind of give them the benefit of the doubt that they also didn't want to be the most outspoken potentially about this big change just in case something went wrong, and then it's all the questions on, well, they were shouting from the rooftops about this change and look what's failed. I kind of understand that they wanted to just let this one pass them by, kind
mm,
of, we've done the change. It's not like the whole award ceremony has changed. But I do think that they've got a real opportunity with next year to be
yeah,
like, we know what we're doing now. Why don't we also enforce or ask or request or whatever it may be, put a message out there that really tries to ramp this messaging up to the next level and see if the artists get on board? Because I think Imogen and I spoke about this a couple of weeks ago, with regards to Earth Percent, where artists can basically credit nature if they have
mm,
used any or had any inspiration from nature in their music, and then some of the proceeds from their music will go to organisations that support pride diversity. And the amount of people that have signed up for it, it's actually really impressive, which I think
mm,
goes to show that it's not that they don't care, it's just that it's not even really on their radar. Like, they are so busy. I mean, like you
yeah,
say, 4 outfit changes in one night. Plus, also, am I going to win these BAFTAs, which I've been working for, not BAFTA, these BRITs Awards that I've
mm,
been working for my entire life. And plus also I have to perform live on this stage in front of people that have been like, a lot
yeah,
was going through Olivia Dean's head on that night and in the build up. We can give
yeah,
her the benefit of the doubt that it wasn't also. And am I being sustainable with my outfit choices?
yeah.
But if we can kind of plant that seed, or if the awards or her stylist or whoever can plant that seed now, and
Mm.
it could just be bubbling away under the surface, that would be goals for 2027.
I endorse that 100%. And I think you're right. Like, it, as much as it's a night of like glamour and it's gorgeous, and it's celebrating people, artists are in a very strange place where it's a complete roll of the dice whether or not you can kind of break through, and social media has a lot to kind of play for
Yeah.
that. A lot of people moving away from big labels and realizing it makes sense to have more ownership over what they're doing and have more um, independence. You've got venues closing down, you've got ticket prices going through the roof, but then the artist not really receiving
Yeah.
anything. And I think, they're kind of up against a lot, even though it's maybe it feels like a first world problem, because the payoff is if you make it, it looks fabulous. Um, but I do think that they are really up against it in terms of just kind of keeping their brand afloat. Um, and I think also under a lot of pressure from their fans to stand for something, and whether they stand for, whether it's immigration or they're speaking up about Palestine or all of these things that a lot got censored out of speeches on the night, or people in the room would say, oh, they actually mentioned something about ICE, and then it wasn't shown on TV. I think it's really it's a weird time. It's like it's not like the 90s where musicians had a bit more of a planned out trajectory and they kind of knew what was going on, lots of opportunities and lots going on. So I think a lot of people are kind of coming from this scarcity place of like, I just want to remain relevant. I just want to remain like in touch with my fans, da, da, da. And not that sustainability should be a burden and another thing to have to think about, but it's almost like, how do you kind of be clear about your messaging and be clear about what you stand for when you're under pressure to kind of stand for a lot.
Yeah, 100%. And I think we all feel that a little bit sometimes, don't we? Where, you
Mm.
know, I talk a lot about the environment, and yet I then get called out for everything that I do that isn't environmentally focused. If I
Yeah.
eat meat, if I get on an aeroplane,
Yeah.
and so you sometimes feel like you're fighting a losing battle, because I'm, never once said I'm I the perfect environmentalist. It is literally the tagline of this podcast.
Mhm.
But you can imagine, therefore, how the artists feel like, oh, well, I don't want to speak out about that, because then, well, obviously that thing that I did wasn't quite great, and then what if that gets called out? And it's sometimes easier, unfortunately, to say and do nothing, which
Mm.
is not ideal. But I'm very conscious that you've probably been up since like 1 o'clock in the morning
It's all
because of
good.
your radio show, Mary. So we'll keep this short and sweet. But I'm really keen to know, if you had like a magic wand, a
Mm.
magical Brits wand, what would you love to see from next year, from the second batch, if you like, of the Northern Brits?
Mm. I really would love to see someone Northern host the awards. And I'm trying to be more like vague with that. They don't necessarily have to be from Manchester, but
Mm,
just to kind of represent the North within that and be able to kind of be on the right side of the jokes, I guess. That would
yeah.
be really lovely. I would love to see more artists kind of being outspoken about the fact that they love to express themselves through fashion. They love clothes. They love accessorizing, but and that is why they have chosen to rewear an outfit or restyle an outfit or buy something secondhand, and almost like take us on that journey of buying secondhand and working with stylists who really put that at the forefront of what they do. Um, I'd love to see maybe a big community project that kind of reflects, I don't know, I don't know whether it's another side, like just generally at award shows, there's just a lot of waste in terms of food,
Yeah.
drink,
Yeah.
confetti flying
Totally
around the
bags.
place,
Yeah.
decorations, whatever it is. But I guess I'd like to see some kind of community project that shows that they're kind of doing things differently to other award shows. Um, and I'd like to see something fun on a train.
I mean, it's not too much to ask.
No, a really fun train activation, maybe a big winner from this year. Or, imagine Ray is your train conductor and comes down the carriage and does a acoustic show whilst you're on the train to Manchester. That's what I want to see.
Oh my God, we need to get on the Trayen. The train.
Perfect.
Oh my God, if GWR do not get on that. In fact, no, we're copywriting that. Mary, take
You
it.
can
Take
have that.
it. Yeah.
You take that one. That was yours.
Okay, okay. Oh, if only we were in charge. If only you were in charge, Mary,
I
then
know.
Brits 2027 would be the most iconic.
I think it would have to be a team effort. But do you know what? I think, yeah, I'll give him I'll give him some praise,
Mm,
because there was a lot of positivity from it. And I like, even just seeing people globally praise the Brits,
yeah.
I think it can only be a good thing for us, and it can only mean more investment into young British musicians, into people who are coming up, more focus on, okay, we need grassroots venues, we need artists who aren't just all from the same place. I don't want to just see Londoners,
Mm,
being celebrated over and over again. I want to see musicians having the chance to spend the year growing and developing and playing shows, and doing the things that actually help them become a good artist, because we can't
mm.
expect people to just pop out of nowhere and entertain us. We need that kind of journey, and I think that's what's really important to the UK, is that you allow people to grow and develop, and then we get to have these nights where we're like, oh my god, aren't we fabulous?
Yeah, and then the conversation can continue to be centered around the music and around the storytelling there. And the
Mm,
fact that, bubbling away under the surface, thankfully, we've moved the Brits, hopefully for more than 2 years, to a venue that was designed to be the most sustainable in the UK. There were still low carbon menu options across
mm,
all different hospitality and catering for the Brits. And everybody that had a ticket got free public transport there.
mm.
These things are still great and should be celebrated and are making a huge difference if you compare it with the Brits in 2025. So I think a win-win
100%,
all.
yeah, super impressive.
It is. Oh, well, Mary, thank you so much for coming back onto the podcast. Like I say, the first and hopefully not the last guest to come back on the pod, but we had to start
Oh.
with you. And of course, we had to debrief the Brits. Tell me about your plans for the next 24, I was going to say 24 hours, but let's go with 24 days. Like, what have you got in the diary? What's going on?
Oh my gosh, I just need to get back into the swing of things. I took a month off, and then coming back, I'm like, oh yeah, I should probably start working again. So
Yeah, about that.
radio every day, and then a few awardsy things, and then a few musicy things, and stuff like that. But yeah, just getting the wheels turning again. But seeing sunshine and daffodils and all these things, I literally feel hopeful, and I feel like good about the world again.
It is amazing, isn't it? Like, we all just hibernate for the months of winter, other than those that book a whole month off, which is genius, by the way. And then
Yeah.
the minute you see that little yellow face of a daffodil, you're like,
Oh,
oh, this is amazing. Life is
yeah,
good again.
exactly. So yeah,
And I've
it's
been
gonna.
seeing that you always tease little things bubbling away on your social media. So you're a busy gal. I look forward to seeing various things come from this year, because no doubt you will continue to make great things and visually please us, and lots of radio. Remind me again what time you are on Hits Radio.
I'm on 1 till 6 a.m. Monday to Friday
Oh my goodness.
on
How are
Hits
you
Radio
alive and
for
kicking?
for the early birds. But no, it's a lot of fun. I really do. I do love it. So yeah, it's good fun, and I am excited to see the Green Queens in full swing as always. And yeah, it's always lovely chatting, Abbie, and Imogen in the ether.
I know, Imogen, we've missed you. Can we debrief? Well, Mary said that we need to get the train to the Brits next year, so
Well,
we'll
yeah,
we'll
I'll see you at the
have
Brits.
to then plan that there. Yeah. Well, thank you so much for coming on. We love you. We appreciate you, and we will continue to admire everything you do.
Ah, likewise. Thanks, gals.
We hope you enjoyed this episode of Green Queens. If you did and you'd like to hear more, we'd be so very grateful if you could like, subscribe, and join the Green group chat for weekly episodes.